Welcome back to the studio for another edition of the Modern Farming Podcast, brought to you by the Green Gene Foundation, where we cultivate agricultural excellence through education.
We're your hosts, Chris and Tara, and together we're growing knowledge about the world that feeds us.
Yep, that's right. And today, Tara, we're going to dive into some educational aspects. With us today is Dr. Kim Abel. She's the head of school at the Optima Academy Online. Very exciting to welcome you in, Dr. Kim, and we're excited to hear about the online school that you help with.
Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you inviting me and being a part of your show today. I come from a long line of educators. I go way back through both my parents, grandparents, and so forth on all sides of the family, and I have a lot of years of education under my belt. Have you ever had one of those people that you just know that are sitting at their desk and you see layers and stacks of educational books? That's me. For years, I've been a classroom teacher, and I am fascinated with how the mind works. As I moved away from public school teaching about 10 years ago, I went into private teaching where I felt like I could experiment on the efficiency and how do we make education come alive for all different kinds of minds. It was around that time that my new head of school, Adam Mangana, called me into his office and put a virtual reality headset on me. It was the first time I'd seen it, and I saw a lung. And within 30 seconds, I was able to tell the difference between a lung that was healthy and unhealthy due to natural causes or unnatural causes. And I understood this concept so clearly without any words. In less than 2 minutes, I took the headset off and I said, Adam, this is going to change education. A few years after that, I was asked to join a team to be able to start a new kind of virtual school. This school would be virtual, like start on a Teams meeting similar to this, but then we would go into these headsets and have this immersive experience where students could talk together, interact, collaborate, give each other a high five, and have a sense of connection from wherever they are. At first around the state of Florida, but we're now all around the world, and come together in the space to learn. That was the beginning of Optima Academy Online. I was a little hesitant at first. I said no the first few times, but they promised me adventure. And I am forever grateful that I joined this team because we are seeing changes in education. We use Socratic discussion from the past. We link it to the fire of new technology. We embed it with virtues because those are never going to go away. Technology will change, but virtues won't. And our mission is to bring it free and accessible to students anywhere we can and make it where their lives can be molded the way they want. We didn't build a school where they have to change to come to us. We become very flexible in the way that we approach education and the modes that we use for education so that families can have the lifestyle they want and have a high academic rigor and an efficient way of learning. And that is what our mission is to get it out to everybody.
So we hear a lot of that, especially when we interview folks involved in homeschooling or alternate schooling. I love how you put that the school or the learning molds to the student. That I think that would resonate as a parent to almost everybody, right? That's a dream for a parent for their students. So I think that's really neat.
And some of the ways that we do that, just so that you know it's more than just a dream, is that we have our classes set up in different ways. And so students can come to what we call our live school. Now they're at home, but we call it live because it's interactive with a teacher. And in this scenario, this is just one scenario. In this scenario, it's for students who, need to have accountability or a good schedule, or they're a little bit more social and they need some interaction. You want a teacher that's very hands-on. They sign in at 8 o'clock in the morning. And they go to a homeroom with a teacher on a Teams meeting. They go to 4 periods of classes in the day between 8:25 and 12:15 with 10-minute breaks in between. During that time, anyone from our kindergarten, first and second graders don't put on headsets. Technology according to their developmental levels. So halfway through third grade is when we first start using headsets. But they can put on headsets anywhere between 10 to 40 minutes per lesson to make sure that they're getting this interaction and it's this high class sticky learning. And then at 12:15 to 1, they have a lunch break. From 1 to 3, some of our high school classes will take place during that time, but most of the time, that's for those who want to have special tutoring or one-on-one time, small groups, and you can come or not come. We do this Monday through Thursday, 4 days a week. We try to make it so efficient that we get that high class learning in a short amount of time. Now, there is work to do. You need to read ahead in your chapter. You need to be prepared to go and discuss and discover. And so there are assignments that you do, and that's according to when you want to do them as a family. And then on Fridays, live class is off, and they can do all their homework then if they want. So this is this flexibility for a live student. We also have on-demand students. Our on-demand students click on and do coursework whenever they want to through a day or within the week. And you can also take a combination. So we have a baseball team that wants to practice in the morning, and we do have a baseball team in Texas that's doing this, and they want to be able to have certain times for live classes and certain times for on-demand classes. So we can accommodate through the day in different ways and in different means according to what it means. So when I say we do try to be flexible, we have all different types of methods. You can take one course, you can take a full load of 6 courses, you can even take an extra 7th course if you so desire. We want to make this be just as flexible as we can to meet the needs of those families.
Okay, so you teach all the lessons, like you teach all the subjects, history, English, all of those. Do they get a workbook, or is it all online that they're reading? Though when you said they have to read ahead on their homework, is it online that they're reading those things?
This is a fabulous question. It depends on the grade. So for our kindergarten through our 2nd grade, they do not use, again, headsets, and we time their technology exposure where they're on with a teacher like this for a few minutes and then they're going and doing. So we send them a student success kit. So that student success kit is going to have manipulatives in it, Play-Doh, those types of things.
Okay.
And then by the time they get to 3rd grade and 4th grade and 5th grade, they're getting a handwriting book. We teach cursive, and so they need those types of things. But a lot of our books and our tools are embedded in our learning management system. We use Canvas right now, and that learning management system is going to have links to the things and the resources that they need. But we also know that families do like, and who does not love the smell of a new book in their hand? So we do provide the links for parents who would like to purchase those books held in hands. There are those resources available to them.
So when you say flexible, you guys have really put the effort in to make it a flexible operation. That is so different from classic learning, right? You come here for 8 hours a day, you go to this room and that room, and here's your books, and away you go. The more we hear from people, the more it seems like that way is going out the door.
Just my passion is how do we make it efficient for learners who have different ways of viewing the world? And I'm just going to quickly throw in here that, we use iReady as our assessment tool. We have to have a norm reference tool in the different states we're in. We're a virtual instructional provider. We have to prove that what we're doing works, that we're following standards. And so we've been using iReady, and not this past year, we're still waiting for our data to come in, but the year before, iReady actually asked us, what are you doing? Because your students are growing, and they're growing beyond the normal 100%. 125% is considered stretch growth. When you think of us with the younger group that do not have headsets, they're learning around 100, 125%. But the more we get them in headsets, by the time they're in 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, they're learning 200 times, 300 times as much. And they come low, but we're catching them up very quickly to their grade levels. And those who are high are just soaring. There was actually one 8th grade class last year that was 400 times growth. I mean, that's phenomenal when you look at and that's efficiency. We want to use Again, we use Socratic discussion, we use discovery, we use where the students own and where teachers are just facilitating so that they can go into that space of ownership of the material and just becomes very sticky learning. It's that beautiful combination of what we know is best practices within the educational field, combined with this very innovative technology that is opening doors like you cannot believe.
So I have a question about the headset and the information coming through it. Is it like animation?
And a headset is actually just like a browser into this world, this spatial computing world. So sometimes we call ourselves more of a spatial computing school because that browser, like my sweet little Safari is starting to get out of date in some ways. But we still have this internal structure that is still just an academic tool to be applied to the good, true, and beautiful world around us. And so I love what you're asking. We do have 360 videos that look real, but you can't really interact within them. And then we have these locations and the scenes that our teachers can build that do look a little bit more cartoony, but you can interact, but you know what? It's not real. This is where we practice. And then we want you to take the headset off, open the door, and go change the world in your community. So there's a lot of intention by the way we're presenting information in there. We do ask the students to come into the classroom with an avatar that looks as close to themselves as possible. And we're not completely high tech because we have to make it affordable and we have to make it accessible to so many people. So it's not going to look exactly the same, but your hair color and and your height and those types of things, we want them to look as close as they can to what they look like on the screen right here so that we can form more of a relationship because you can actually read avatar body language in a similar way that you are reading my body language right now. And so you might say, wow, Kim is sounding excited right now. She seems passionate about what you're talking about. In avatar form, you see that too. You see arms going up, you see energy and excitement. And so you can read them. So we want it to be, again, part of relationship building, but with the understanding it's not real. Technology's not real.
Right.
Humans are real.
I go back to the guy that uses games, different games for education. Where you're making these 4 times and 3-4 times growth is because you're not losing interest. I would bet you don't lose interest from almost all these kids ever.
I would
Just
tell you that, you're saying these gamers, they'll come to us and go, oh, you're a virtual reality school. And the first day of school, they're like, oh, cool, we get to use our virtual reality headset. And then within about a week, they go, wait a second.
mm,
I still have to do work. I'm
yeah.
accountable for learning. This is not just play. And then you see within a week after that, this may be school, but this is the coolest school I've ever been to. And then you see it shoot up. So you do see a little bit of a dip right there, just from the understanding that we are accountable. They do write. They do math problems. Now they're experimenting with math problems. I was just in a class 2 days ago where a group of teachers were experimenting with some new tools in VR and getting ready to teach this next year. And, there was a story where we were going in and contractors had sent us into a house where all of the furniture had been missized and we had to go in and adjust the sizes of it. So a couch needed to be 3/4 the current size, where, a refrigerator needed to be 7/5 the original size, and you understand the concept I'm doing, but
Yes.
we had to do the standard and it was embedded, within that space.
Oh, that sounds wonderful. So let's say somebody wasn't excelling in one of the subjects. What do you offer to help them excel in the thing that they're lacking in?
So in the thing that they're lacking in, we do have a full ESE team. And so they are the ones that are looking at IEPs and 504s, yet the vast majority of our students are home education students, and they're just using us through the state of Florida, especially as their virtual instructional provider. And so those students might not have IEPs or 504s. Most of our teachers are ESE certified. And
Okay.
so they're very good at identifying and seeing where a student really does need extra support. And so this is the time between between 1 and 3 o'clock, where a teacher will call a student in and work with them either one-on-one or a small group. We use iReady as a diagnostic to see the holes, and a lot of teachers schedule their small group according to those needs. If it's beyond what a normal classroom teacher is available of doing, which is about a grade level below, we'll also call in our learning coach for reading, our learning coach for math, and we have some different additional tools that we can do. Now, we are not able to service students who might be considered a self-contained student in a classroom. We're just able to service students who are about 2 grade levels below. But if there's more of an extreme of developmental delay, at this time, we do not have that support system built out. So we do have kind of a screening process because we want a child to feel successful. And if
Yes,
we feel we can help and support them, we get very, very excited. But we want to be very honest with families too.
absolutely. Absolutely. You always want to set them up for success.
On some of the special needs that your school seems to fit perfectly for children that have extreme circumstances, like they're hospitalized for a long period of time. Can you tell us a little bit about some of those stories and things that you do to help out those children?
Absolutely, absolutely. Stanford Medical Hospital in California, we have trained a nurse there, and this also helps the support that the headsets are safe for our students to go into. If Stanford Medical Hospital is a supportive team member with us. But we realized very early that their students, we got phone calls, our student can't go into a brick and mortar space. They're on medical leave. We're going to be in our home, but we're also in the hospital quite often. How can you help us? And it is truly beautiful to have a space where a student, we don't make them turn on their screens in this two-dimensional space, but they can put on a headset and they can still be who they are personality-wise in avatar form.
Mm.
And, our heart breaks, and we're also excited after a year or 2 years with a student who has been a leader and who has guided, the students in her class. I'm thinking of one in particular. And then, she healed. She grew. She was able to go back into her brick and mortar space, but she never lost her identity. Sometimes students in those spheres will take on the identity of, I am a sick person.
Mm.
But when you can still interact and show your strengths and your talents shine through, you still have your purpose and your core identity with you. And we've been able to see that happen with a lot of the students who come. So those are some students. We have some students. I have students that are children of travel nurses. And to keep consistency with school, they travel to different states and they still continue to join us just from different time zones. We have dancers, we have tennis players, we have baseball players. We have families that are living rich, full lives, and they need to have that flexibility. So again, we try to fit all different types of students within this space.
Can you go into a little bit more of, I know you told us a little bit about how you were asked to come to the school. Tell me a little bit more about how the school came to be and a little bit more about your history with it.
It was about 5 years ago that I got a little 5.5 years ago. I got a phone call. Would you want to meet and talk? I was teaching in a brick and mortar space at that time, and it was some of the work that I had done with the headsets, and some of the work that I've done as a brick and mortar teacher. And this team had actually visited my classroom a few times, but I didn't realize really why. But they'd come in and they were watching, how are we interacting with students? Again, efficiency, making everybody involved, all of those types of things have always been part of who I am as an educator. And so they asked me to join initially as the academic dean. And they said, within this space, we want you to put the pedagogy into immersive technology, what works, what doesn't. And we feel as we've looked at different teachers that what you're doing here could translate very well. I was not classically trained, but through my research on what works the most and what is most effective, the work that I've done with universities, it just so happens this is the best approach for students in general, in my opinion. And so we're like, okay, we call it the ancient and tie it to the future. So we're bringing in, these ancient skill sets of questioning and exploration. And so, initially I said no because I was like, this is crazy. What you guys are wanting to do is sounding a little bit like the Jetsons cartoon. And I'm not sure the world is ready for this. And they laughed and they said, we promise you adventure. I also had some things happen around the same time with my family life where I needed to be home more. I needed to be taking care of things. And so as I stepped into this new space, I thought, well, if I need to have this flexibility from home, surely others do as well. So it was beyond just this desire to create something academically. It was a very personal connection to, I need to have a flexible life right now due to my family situations. We need that to be for others as well. So we also wanted to be able to respect teachers as a profession. How do we handle teachers in this space to make them feel like they are professionals, that they're valued, that they're wanted? So all of these things came into play. So when they asked again, I said, okay, can I have a say in flexibility, in teachers, in this academics? And of course they said yes. And I said, then I'm in. And I am so grateful that I did decide to join. Our first year, we had 150 students.
Wow.
150 the first day. That was it. We grew that year, but 150 students.
That's a
And
lot.
just so you know that I just checked my numbers yesterday as we're getting ready to start our 5th year, and we're getting close to 1900. So just so you know how fast this is doubling in this space. And then the work that we do here in the live school is available in classrooms, and the base that we are building, the technology that we're building, then goes out to private schools and public schools all over the place. So we are growing, and it looks like it's being very well received, as spatial computing is expanding so rapidly.
How many teachers do you employ at your academy?
We don't usually lose, we just add. And so a couple days ago, I just onboarded 19 teachers. That is going along with, I think we had 45.
And so what age groups are you geared towards? Is it just K through 5 or is it all the way up?
Well, that's a great question. Yes, I should have started with that. We are K-12. We're a K-12 school. We became K-12 this year. We actually started with our 8th graders as our highest level, and we've added a year, and we want them to be our first graduates. And so our seniors are the ones who started with us 4 years ago as 8th graders. So we're a full program. We have AP classes, and it's really neat because we want our seniors to leave with not just the academics under their belt, sense of self that comes through virtue, and an understanding of the human nature that goes with technology. So, our seniors, by their senior year, they're learning about innovation through their history classes. They're learning in their science class how to build apps. They have their safe and secure AI tools that are distributed through the school where they can build apps. Then in math, they're building out websites. And then, in their ELA classes, they're looking at how we can help the world around us using immersive technology and solving problems in this virtual reality space. And so they're leaving with quite a skill set. And that's how we've been very intentional in how we want to grow our students.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say, as this type of learning becomes more prevalent, that there's a good chance you're going to have a virtual reality or a online curriculum for collegiate education majors at some point. I could see
That would
that.
be very exciting. That would be
Very,
very exciting. Yes.
it would be nice to have some education majors come out with this kind of knowledge so they can hop right into a program.
Like if
Yes.
a private school just wanted to use your Spanish 1, Spanish 2, how would that be implemented, and how would they get in contact with you to do that in their classroom? Because they have the brick and mortar school, they have the 20 kids that need Spanish 1, but sometimes in a smaller private school we have difficulties finding the right fit of a teacher, but we still have to make sure that that is, set, that they have the class.
So we actually do that right now. There's a dyslexic school called The Bridge in Columbia, Mississippi, and they needed a history teacher, and so their students log on and put headsets on and join our students in Florida during the live sessions, and so you can do it that way. We also have other schools that say, do you know what? We want to teach it ourselves. We just need to have the material. And so they are purchasing, those on demand and they can teach it from there. So again, flexibility. We want to bring this high class, rigorous work everywhere we can. And so we do it flexibly. So usually those teachers or those principals in the school, the heads of schools, they'll reach out to me. We'll set up a meeting and we ask, what do you need? And because we're set up in a certain way, we can be incredibly flexible with how we are able to get that content to different schools that want to use our systems. So I will tell you, I was just yesterday in a Spanish practice lesson. And again, in this field of spatial computing, you put on your headset and you enter this space. We have a lot of adaptive and agentic AI that's going on there. A lot of talk is how are you embedding AI into a school system? We're very careful because we're built on humanity and virtues. And so we really teach students how to use it correctly, and we give them the tools on how to handle it correctly. And so we have this wonderful new tools that are coming out where these students can talk to AI characters in different languages, any language that you want, and it will help them. We can program it to only talk in the language itself, which pushes our higher level students up because it forces them to just use the language.
Right.
Or you can go back for our new students, and this was the lesson I was in because I'm not that great at Spanish, where you can go up and say, okay, how do you say blue? And, azul. And then you can go and continue your conversation. And so, you have these different access tools. So we like to show them if you don't know a word, this is where you go, to Google your word. This is where you go if you want to look it up in a book. This is where you go now with an AI character that you can have a conversation with, and it can adjust and adapt to the student's learning and abilities. So this is really opening up a lot of doors.
When you're teaching Spanish and you have a person, say from Argentina, you get that slang, you get that the way that they talk, their
Right.
pronunciation is all done in the Argentinian way. And then you meet somebody from Cuba and they talk different. And I'm just seeing that this AI could open up those different vernacular languages,
Yes.
and so that you can understand more of them versus just the person from Argentina. You're really comfortable with the way they talk. My daughter took Spanish from somebody for high school, but then went to college and had an Argentinian professor, but then went to Salamanca and did a class in Salamanca. And just to have the different ways that they talk, I'm sure that this would fit into that and be amazing.
Yes, because you choose the country. You can choose the country from which they're from. And you're exactly right. I've been in the Spanish classes last year where the Spanish teachers are all, this is how you would say it from the country I'm from. But if you went to Spain, you would hear it. And so, and vice versa, the one who lived in Spain versus. And so, yeah, you're exactly right. And that's what we want. That's the efficiency I'm talking about. How do we really start to fine tune these things? And those little glitches, those little holes, we can use technology to now raise the bar.
And that's just one language. I mean, that's just one portion of it. So I'm thinking of math, and I'm thinking of, the English language is so huge
Right.
and so vast, and Old English and all of that. Oh my goodness. I can see how this is amazing.
So you say math, and so let me tell you what we tested last year and what we're going to use this year as you're looking at this, adaptive tool. And especially our students are home education students, so they're coming back from multiple levels of instruction. If they're a first year student with us after studying from home, we have various degrees. Different, moms value and dads value math differently. So some may have taught it to the extreme, and others are like, you know what? 2 + 2 is 4. That's all you need, honey. But the truth is, we do need to have not just an understanding of 2 + 2 is 4. We need to have math sense in order to focus, in this mathematical world. And so, the question I posed my teachers is with AI adaptive tools that we have embedded, our third and fifth graders tested it, where if they didn't understand an assignment, it would automatically loop them to a mini lesson, bring them back, loop them to a mini lesson, bring them back, and then lo and behold, everybody gets 100%. Now the teacher then gets a form that says, this is a green student, went straight through. This is a yellow student, had to take a couple shortcuts or long cuts. And then this is a red student where we meandered for hours. This child really doesn't understand. So the teacher could take that and say, okay, now I need to adjust the way that I talk to these students, and I need to fill in the holes. We have another system that can fill in the holes off the side. But then the question is, what do you grade if every student gets 100% in math? It is super cool to hear. Yes, no, we're looking at time on task.
Okay.
We're looking at variation, but that shows endurance. We should be rewarding students who are willing to struggle and work through it. So what we're really looking at is critical thinking. That 100% at the end is the beginning of a grade. And so, our teachers, especially the middle school and high school, they're creating rubrics where that's just part of the grade, and then the student has to talk through the process. And so the math sense and the understanding now is becoming more of a grade than the actual outcome. So again, we have to change that because who in this world, I mean, and it's so natural for our students. Don't just put something in ChatGPT or Gemini or any tool that you're using, and we've got an answer.
Yes.
So education needs to be more than the answer now. We need to go deeper and further with that.
And it relates to the real world, because in the real
Yes.
world, there's no, well, I'll just take a C, right? You've
Right.
got a problem at your job and you work through it. You might need help. It might take you weeks, but you have to solve it, right? You
You
don't
have
just
to
say, I
solve it.
kind of did it, and your customer, whoever you're working for, says, yeah, that's good enough.
Teaching AI, one small portion of teaching AI is how to prompt an AI machine. No, it's how are we using it?
Mm-hmm.
How are we using it?
Cool.
And that's what we start young and tell our seniors who are then building these things. But they now have the base behind them of what it means to have human aspect of technology, and they're in a place of virtue where they can use it appropriately.
You have to keep approaching it that it's a usable tool, and how to use it properly.
Is it just like on Florida Virtual School that you're an option, or are you a specialty that they have to go separate? I'd really like to learn more about how they get signed up.
Well, we like to be flexible. Can you tell? You can tell. And so as you're coming to our school and you're saying, okay, how do I access? If you're in the state of Florida, you can join us as a public charter school. So if you're a public student, you can log on to Optima Academy Online, and you would be part of Collier County School District, no matter what county you live in, and that would mean that you would stay in the public school system. Now, if you're a home education, you would then log on to the same Optima Academy Online, and you would register as a home education student. We would need to have verification that you're a home education student. We would be your virtual instructional provider, and we would be paid upon the completion of your course through the state. So that's how you would link to us because we're a virtual instructional provider. Now, if you are in the state of Florida and you're on the educational savings account system, if you're registered under Step Up and you have your, you have your ESA and your PEP scholarships,
Yep.
then you would just go there, you'd drop down and you'd find us and you would register through that means.
And what about a private school looking to do some classes, maybe not the whole thing?
For that, you would want to reach out directly to me. I would ask you and kind of screen you through the specific needs of what you want, and then I would link you up with the correct person. We do have a sales and a marketing team, but I would love to be able to point you in the correct direction according to your needs. And so if I know which direction that is because of our flexibility, I could then get you the right person from the start.
The one thing we did not discuss so far was testing. So
Yes.
every school has to do your FCAT, your SAT testing at the end of the school year. Are you implementing the PERT exam as far as graduation? Is that part of your testing, or is it just improvement? With a lot of homeschoolers, it's showed improvement throughout the years. How do you guys test, and how elaborate is that?
Oh, yes, it's flexible. We believe that testing should be the end result of exceptional teaching. So we don't teach to the test. We usually train a couple weeks beforehand to make sure that the students are aware of what the test is going to look like. If you are a public charter student, you have to take the FAST test. And so we set up testing sites in the state of Florida on certain days, and it's up to the parent to drive them to a testing site. It's in person for the charter students. Again, that's a smaller percentage of our students. Most of our students are home education. As you know, as a home education student, you have a choice if you want to take the FAST test, and if you do, you go through your local school district.
Okay.
Now, what we do for all students is we do give the iReady test as a diagnostic the first week of school, mid, and then at the end, so that for home ed students who need to have the annual form, we can fill that out and use the iReady grades. We cannot make a home education student take iReady testing. We can only express the benefits of that because our teachers use it as an analysis to be able to best support and help your child. And so there are benefits of the iReady testing, but as a home education parent, this is up to you to determine what type of testing. Now, once our students reach high school, we have a college and career counselor who can give, access and information for PSAT, ACT, SAT testing. And then at the school itself, we give the CLT. And so the CLT is given fall for seniors so that they can get their scores in order to, apply for colleges.
Right.
And then we give it in the spring to 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. Now we have relationships with campuses for dual enrollment. We can introduce and get families where they need to be for that. But if you're a home education student in the state of Florida, that dual enrollment is between you as a parent and the state. The state will accept payment, will pay for that, and then it's with the college. So we make those relationships possible, and we make the proper introductions for what students need, and that again goes through a college and career counselor.
What secrets can you give us that might be coming down the line?
I know, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. We like to test things a little bit before, nail it before you scale it, and then we unveil. And so some of the short-term things that we're going to be seeing here in the next few months, the number one big thing, and this is for those of you who are of the education profession, is that we're building out what's called academic engineers. And when you hear engineer, you think of a professional. And some of you might even think of a salary, right? And we know typically that an elementary education teacher might not have the same salary as an academic engineer. But what we're experimenting with this year with one of my teachers, Miss Jamie Ching, she's taking this on, is that she's very good at human. She's very good at relationships. She's very good at understanding students, but she also has a knowledge of technology. This allows her to teach many, 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 many more students than an average school teacher. So shouldn't she, with the effectiveness that she has, be paid more of an academic engineer, an engineer salary? So we're trying to grow the profession in a new way. Why? We want to attract the best of the best of the best. We're losing a lot of teachers, and that is detrimental to the students of our nation. So if we can set up a system where they are treated as professionals, they're paid as professionals, they're respected as professionals, we're in a great place to move everything up. So we've got that aspect. And then the new technology. Oh my goodness, there are some secrets that I can reveal in another month or two. But I'm telling you, we're moving from VR to spatial computing because what is happening in this space is incredible. And we are redefining a way that a student can stand in a group. You can have 30 students right there in your classroom and have them all on the same lesson and yet receiving very individual instruction and yet still being interactive. I mean, a lot of times we say, individualize, and we think of them, you're here and you're kind of doing the same here. No, we're meshing it now. So this is really exciting to see where we're going to be going here in the next year or two. If you were to call me in 3 months, I would be telling you different things. We're going to be moving that fast. What I tell you today will be outdated in 3 months.
I'm thinking with all this virtual reality, agriculture wise, something that we could cook up, the farm type experience, VR for folks that live in
Absolutely.
Chicago or live in Miami.
Yes.
Something that you could think about in a collaboration in the future.
Isn't that exciting? I
It is.
know, I know. We do a unit on the rats of Nim, and they live on a farm, and so we do similar things within that unit. So yes.
So Dr. Kim, last words, any thoughts about your academy or anything else you'd like to leave the listeners with today?
Well, first, I want to thank you tremendously. I appreciate this opportunity to come and to talk and to share what I am very passionate about. And I just, there's a lot in the air right now about education. And there's some concerns and there are some worries. And I just want to say this is a great time to be an educator. This is a fantastic time for students to step into new learning spaces. And I think we're on the cusp of something so beautiful and revolutionary. As I've studied the history of education, we're in a revolutionary space. And I think that it's something that people need to truly embrace with hope and with energy and with much optimism, because we are still human and we will always be human. That is going to be the deep underlying in all the steps that we move forward. But this is going to be a great time for a child. And the future to me looks very, very, very bright.
That's about all the time we have for the podcast today.
So thanks for listening to Modern Farming, and be sure to follow us and join us again as we grow knowledge about the world that feeds us.